Welcome into the Thunder Basketball Universe presented by COOP Ale Works. We've told you to keep an eye out now for the past month probably. We've hinted that this would be coming soon, and that is the Thunder's 2022-23 NBA schedule. That's right, all 82 games are set. The dates are locked in, so you know we had to bring out the full crew to come talk about this today. This is a big day here in the Thunder Basketball Universe. So here joining us in the podcast studio is radio play-by-play Mr. Matt Pinto and, of course, TV analyst Mr. Michael Cage. And guys, I know there are a lot of reasons why schedule release day is a big deal, but for us who travel with the team all 82 games, I know exactly what we're going to be doing every day for the next 6 months. That's a big deal.
Yeah, this is huge in terms of like just planning your life out, knowing where you're going to be, on your kids' birthdays and all that kind of thing. So, this is our roadmap for the next 7 months, basically, and a great opportunity to get our prep started.
Yeah.
Home for Thanksgiving, home for 2 weeks around Christmas.
That's a big
home
deal.
for New Year's Eve. It's like, this works.
What could be better? What could be better? Yeah.
Yeah, that was the first one I looked at was, all right, I know it's been a Thunder tradition that we're home for New Year's Eve. And once I saw that, that's okay. The schedule doesn't matter. It's all good now. Yeah. Because we're going to keep that going.
That tradition stays alive.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Should be a good matchup.
Yeah. Between all four of us, we've seen a lot of NBA schedules released over the years. I'm curious for you two. You guys have seen a lot more NBA schedules than we have. How has this day changed in terms of what this day means for everybody out there? Matt, let's start with you.
You see a ton of leaks now that become national stories. Who's playing on Christmas Day? Who isn't? There are teams in an uproar. There are fan bases in an uproar. And then from the Thunder standpoint, it's that itch to know, okay, where are we featured nationally? What are the big dates coming up on the schedule? And I think the age of social media, and you may have mentioned this, Paris, has made this a big occasion.
Sure has.
And that's to the credit of the NBA, I think, Michael. The popularity of this sport, it's global. The way that they, do a really good job of featuring stars and showcasing them, so there's an identification for fans, and they're looking for those matchups. And where are they in the schedule when it's released?
And for me being a former player, I mean, it was not something that I really saw as much when I was playing. But I see the value of it now because I'm thinking like a player now. I know the players are probably just as excited today as we are.
Yep.
We got a draft class coming in of 4 new top players, 4 new players from last year. I know they're looking at it just like we were last night. Like, okay, this is where we're going to be. I'll be close to home. This is what's going on. But I like what the league is doing now. I really think it should be given that kind of notoriety because it's really a major deal because you're talking about the broadcast schedule for us. Mm-hmm. You guys brought up the family. Are you going to be home for Christmas? Yeah, of course we're home for all 3 of the big major holidays. And then take it further. You look at the schedule itself and see how travel friendly it is.
Yeah, well, good reminder, Michael, about the broadcast. 81 of the 82 games will be on Bally Sports Oklahoma. Of course, all 82 will be on WWS Sports Animal and the Thunder Radio Network. And Michael, you alluded to this. The players, they're going to be taking the schedule one game at a time. Once we get into the season, those guys are so laser focused that they're not looking ahead to who's on the schedule, but I think right now in August when nothing else is going on, they can, start to plan out those outfits. I know Shai's going to be wondering about the cold weather cities, the warm weather cities, got to get all those fits for that concrete
runway. Make sure
runway.
the suitcase is big enough.
That's right.
Exactly. But it's really funny because I got to believe, because if I was a player today, this would be like a big moment for me too, because I'm thinking, all right, I know the schedule now. I know when I'm going to play against LeBron James. I know when I'm going to play against Nikola Jokic. I know when I'm going to play, against Chris Paul. And I think that, it resonates with players. And then at the same time, for all of us, we get to kind of prepare for it too, because so much has been happening, quickly with the draft, the pre-draft, and then the summer league. And then you have that lull that's happened until right now. Now everybody starts saying, okay, we got a target date now for how this whole thing is going to start. And once it starts, man, it never stops. It never lets up.
Yeah, and I'm thinking as a player, you're looking at how many back-to-backs do we have?
Yeah.
Where are there clusters of games in the schedule to prepare myself?
Trips, yeah.
Exactly. And, there are, I think, 2 road trips of 4 games, 1 of 5. Right. That's the max. But, March, 17 games throughout the course of that month, 16 games in November. So I'm guessing they're gearing themselves that way a little bit too.
There's that stretch of 7 out of 8 games, late November, early December, that are all on the road. That is going to be a huge test for this young Thunder team to go into those road games after road games. But I think you notice throughout the schedule, there's also the league does a really nice job more and more each successive year of trying to group games together in the same city. So you see those stretches where you play actually 3 out of 4 nights against the 2 Los Angeles teams. So you get a chance to at least unpack your bags in one place.
Yeah.
And
5 days in LA, that's rough.
And you remember, that's how we finished the season last
Right.
year
Right.
with those 5 days in Los Angeles. So, I know we're going to talk about it a little bit later into the particulars of the schedule, but, you look at the overall schedule itself, from my point of view as a player and now as an analyst, I think it's very travel friendly.
Yeah.
And I, it's really, the league has done a good job of not just making it cushiony for the top teams, but I see a little break in there for teams that, are not projected to be in the NBA championship or, playing for the Western Conference title. I see, a break in the schedule where, these guys can kind of reload because before they get to the All-Star break.
Here's the other thing I noticed that I want to mention quickly is that there are like 5 almost baseball series.
Yes.
Same
Yep.
team. It's not necessarily back-to-back days, but it's back-to-back games.
Right.
So there's almost a playoff feel to that. And for a young team to have the opportunity to make the course corrections and adjustments game to game is incredibly valuable. And it happens 5 times on the schedule.
Wow.
There's so many opportunities in the season to really dive into those back-to-backs, those mini series that we're talking about. Let's take a short break here because we want to dive into this schedule and the details of this upcoming calendar.
COOP Ale Works is the proud sponsor of Thunder Basketball Universe. Brewers of the fan favorites F5 IPA and 99-calorie Ice Chest IPA. You'll find those and many more COOP beers at retailers across Oklahoma. Learn more at CoopAleWorks.com.
All right, let's jump right into it. Some of these notable matchups that all of us have had our eyes on as soon as this schedule came out. The first one being the very first game for the Thunder. That's going to be Wednesday, October 19th at Minnesota. And this makes things a little bit easier because the first home opener for the Thunder is also against the Timberwolves. That is going to be on Sunday, October 23rd. And Mike, you mentioned it earlier, that New Year's Eve game, the one that is so, a tradition here in Oklahoma City. Thunder will be playing the 76ers here inside of Paycom Center on December 31st. So some of those are the highlight matchups that, a lot of fans really look forward to seeing. I'm interested. I mentioned it earlier. We've seen a lot of NBA schedules. What are the first things that you guys look for whenever this schedule comes out? What stood out to you immediately?
Well, I think that, the Thunder get the one true national game on November 1st in Orlando against the Magic. That's the 1 versus 2, Paolo Banchero versus Chet Holmgren. That's going to be the way it's billed. And I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of hype around that matchup and around which of these two teams that are developing and are continuing to sort of till the soil, looking to bigger things in the future. Where is each of these teams as it relates to how the nation is perceiving them? So I think that's going to be a great opportunity to showcase where this organization is on a national stage.
And, if I can add to what Matt said, just starting out against Minnesota, I think that's going to be a real big moment there, too. Because remember, last year we started out in Utah.
Yep.
Utah had hopes of being in the Western Conference Finals, getting to the NBA Finals. We played them the last couple of years like that. Here we are playing another hard-hitting, what I would call overachieving team. And they got an upgrade with Rudy Gobert to see how all that works with Karl Anthony Towns. And where all the young guys fall at that point when they finish training camp and they fly into Minnesota.
But Nick, did they get an upgrade? It'll be
fascinating.
I thought I had slipped that in, but okay, Matt, you caught me.
No, Matt, it's a great point because that is going to be a fascinating stage of both the Thunder's development arc and Minnesota's development arc. So early in the season, you face a division rival twice in the first 5 days of the schedule. And we don't know how that combo in the front court is going to look. And so there's going to be a lot of
we know it's going to be big, though.
Yeah, well.
A lot of size.
No doubt about it. The stretch that I'm really looking at, guys, is actually in January. It's a 4-game road trip against 4 potentially heavy hitters in the Eastern Conference. You've got Miami, Philadelphia, Chicago, and Brooklyn. You think about this young Thunder team, probably going to be the youngest team in the league once again. In the dog days of January, we know, Michael, you know better than anybody how grueling that part of the schedule can be leading up to the All-Star break. Breeding that resilience within this group during that time period is going to be absolutely essential. Be a great opportunity for these guys to go up against some of the league's best, get knocked down potentially, and then fight their way back up.
Well, iron sharpens iron.
That's
so,
right.
I mean, that's how the schedule goes. And sometimes, the schedule is your friend and sometimes it's your enemy. And don't forget about the element of weather. Remember how we sat on the ground for almost a whole night in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Hard to forget.
Then fly to Cleveland and play.
Yep.
We had a couple of trips like that where we got caught in the snow. So you throw that in there as well. But I think that the league as a whole has done a good job of making sure that everybody is going to get grinded, several times with those big road trips. Well, we have 3 big road trips where, we're staying on the road for at least 5, 6, I think I counted last one, 8 days maybe.
Yeah.
That was, we haven't quite had a trip like that, but I like that because, you're knocking out those road games and then you come home and you have the same thing where you play 4 or 5 games at home for a nice little stretch.
I'm going to go the flip. Yeah. Nick, you're talking about the road challenges. I'm looking mid-December when you're home for 7 consecutive games before Christmas, because I think one of the things, and Michael, I'd love to hear your feedback on this, a young team needs to build a dynamic about bringing a disposition at home to defend the home court and to build a home court advantage. So I'm curious to see if this team can develop that as the season unfolds and to have 7 consecutive days around a holiday, which can be a distraction at home. Yeah. How will they deal with that? So I'm curious to see that.
Well, and I think that's the part where, being a young team and, Mark Daigneault has been around. He's been in this organization, as a, blue coach and now 3rd year as at the helm here. I think that's where it really comes into hand. You got a young team, energetic. That's going to really help you out if you think about it.
Yeah, should.
Yeah.
Really should. Yep.
One other thing that I wanted to go back to a little bit are the mini-series, because there's a lot of them. One of them we get right out of the gates in October. We host the Clippers here inside of Paycom Center on the 25th and the 27th. This is something that is relatively new. I mean, over the past 2-3 seasons that we've seen, what have been some of the benefits that we've seen from these mini-series and what guys can get out of them?
I think the biggest one is the ability to adjust game to game. And I think Mark Daigneault has shown he's been exceptional in that regard. And the players' buy-in has been very evident in those previously. So I'm looking forward to that. I would say going into the schedule, don't sleep on the Clippers. It's like we've almost forgotten that Kawhi's coming back and Paul George is going to be healthy. And man, I mean, this team I think is loaded and could be one of those teams that fights to win the West this season. But to see them early in the season, I think is a benefit. And I think this is a beautiful opportunity for this team to get a sense of what competing on this level and to do it against an elitist team right out of the chute at home, that'll be terrific.
The one other thing to mention here is also not just the adjustments game to game by the coaching staff, but players learning personnel. Yeah. Right? It's one thing to watch film on Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. It's a whole other thing to have to defend those pull-up jump shots, to deal with the length, all of that type of thing. That's something only learned through the experience of being on the floor and truly knowing the personnel.
Right. And that's also an element. It's a learned skill to be able to make those adjustments in real time. Let's talk about the tough stretches of this schedule. In recent years, it's been January. January is normally really a grind in this season. I'm looking at March in this calendar. Games, back-to-backs. But one thing that we've talked about is that is an excellent opportunity for these young guys to learn how to create this resilience within their team, how to build their own energy and take it with them on the road. Mike, as you look at that calendar, what are you thinking when you look at March and those back-to-backs, especially a home road back-to-back, Golden State and Phoenix right there in that first week? What are you seeing when you look at that month?
Well, first of all, it's a grind month.
Yeah.
I mean, we usually see a heavy schedule like that, in January. So even though January is still a heavy schedule, this is probably, to me, like the crescendo of the season. When you get over that hump, you're pretty much going downhill because it's going to challenge you in every way. By then, conditioning starts to become a big factor. Staying healthy for a lot of teams, because you got to realize whatever guidelines the Thunder young players might be under, the other teams are under that too. What about, load management, how they're going to play these players at that point in the season, because you're talking post All-Star break. And for the Thunder, I like the fact that coming out of that post All-Star break and then rolling over into this heavy schedule in March, you got a nice little, 5 games at home. You play 2 games on the road right after the All-Star break. And I think you got like 5 coming up at home. And then you got this massive schedule in March. I think that, by then, I think you would have probably understood a lot of these guys, because we're still young, keep in mind, We were the youngest team in the league last year. They would have gotten used to this schedule by then, especially having that big break in February for the All-Star break to get ready for this kind of grind month. Usually January just beats you up and you're just crawling to the All-Star break.
Right. In March, the Thunder also gets 2 out of the 4 afternoon games that the team has this year. That's not something that these guys are probably typically accustomed to. Nope. We haven't seen it over the last few years playing an early afternoon game. There's a noon tip-off at New York earlier in November, and then there's 2:30 p.m. tip-offs here in Paycom Center. I think about just family friendly, being able to bring kids down to those games late in the school year, late in the season. I think that'll be great opportunities for fans to come down to bring their kids and families.
And if we're talking specific opponents, they see Houston 3 times in February, including a home and home with them to open the month. Right. So I think that when we look at the track and the landscape of where different teams are in their development right now, there are obvious comparisons between Houston and the Thunder, and it's going to be an opportunity for our guys to get out there and be about competing against a team that maybe is at a similar place in their overall development.
A lot to look forward to on this schedule. All 82 games are out right now. You can go to OKCThunder.com to see the full schedule and maybe get some tickets too while you're at it. Come down to Paycom Center and see these guys in action in person. And of course, tune into Bally Sports Oklahoma and catch all of us on air, and tune into WWLS's Sports Animal to listen to those games as well. Before we let you go, there are a couple of things that happened recently here in the Thunder Basketball universe that we want to keep an eye on and keep you up to date with, and they caught our attention. The first one is Shai. He went back home to Ontario and hosted his first basketball camp for kids in his hometown of Hamilton, Ontario. I thought this was awesome. I love seeing Shai out there interacting with kids. Looked like they had a fun time out there.
Well, we have an incredible content team that was up there capturing some of this, and the pictures say everything that you need to see there, because the smiles on the kids' faces, Shai, how he lights up a room. This is why he's such a special leader for this group, guys.
Well, it's amazing the maturity he has as a player to continue to get better and develop himself, Michael. But he's still a kid as well. Yeah. Like, he really has a jovial approach about the game, and I think that really translates.
And for a player to go back to his hometown, there's just nothing no better than that. It's just special. It's a feel-good moment. It's giving back to your community that gave to you, that helped you get to where you were, family, friends. I mean, that's one of those ones that make you say, when you hit that schedule in March, I don't care, bring it on. I got a lot of people that believe in me.
Yeah. Exactly. And he actually hosted the camp in his old school gym, Sir Alan McNabb Secondary School in Hamilton. And if I'm a kid going to that school and I see Shai coming back, oh man, I'm soaking up every single word that he's saying. I am wearing that shirt every single day that I got at that camp. So I know those kids really, really enjoyed that opportunity. If we're talking about hometowns, we also have to mention Mr. Jeremiah Robinson-Earl, who went back to his hometown of Kansas City to throw out the first pitch at a Royals game. I don't know. Gal, did you see the pitch?
I saw the pitch.
Okay.
It looked pretty good.
Okay, all right.
I will say, he didn't rear back and fire it. He didn't throw a full fastball. It was more of a batting practice pitch, but it was straight.
It got to the plate.
It got to the plate. And to be honest, Jerry was looking cool.
No, he wanted
to make sure that he looked good. So that's the most important thing.
Yeah. Well, he didn't pull a Nelly and throw the ball 16 feet outside to the backstop. So that was good.
Didn't have to dive to go catch the ball. Yeah. So it looked like there was a lot of awesome things happening in players' hometowns this past weekend. And if you've missed it, be sure to go to OKCThunder.com or at OKCThunder on all social channels to keep up with what is happening in the Thunder basketball universe. And of course, we talked about the fun schedule release content. You're going to want, if you haven't seen it already, please.
So good.
Please go watch the wholesome content that the Thunder just put out on at OKCThunder on all social channels. It's gonna make you very happy. It's gonna make you smile.
Absolutely gonna make your day. I don't even want to tease it.
I know. Just I wish it was like 30 minutes long. Personally, for me, it wasn't enough. But you're gonna love it. It's on at OKC Thunder on all social channels. Be sure to go check that out. Until then, thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to like, rate, and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Thank you so much to our special guests, Mr. Matt Pinto and Mr. Michael Cage, for joining us today. Thank you so much to our producer, Matt Bishop. And until next time, Thunder up and catch you later.